Ever since I was little, the restaurant was like an extra family member. My father, Joe, spent more time within its bustling kitchen than he did at home, and for him, it wasn't just a place to make money. To him, our restaurant was a legacy, something he built from scratch with dreams of handing it down to us one day. My mother, Linda, supported him every step of the way. She ran the front of the house, greeting guests with her easy smile and making sure every patron felt like family. Between my father's dedication in the kitchen and my mother's warmth in the dining room, the restaurant quickly became a beloved staple in our small town. For my parents, it was a dream fulfilled. But for me, it was a place I often felt out of place, as if everyone else fit perfectly into this world that didn't quite feel like mine. My older brother, Mike, was everything my father hoped for in a successor. He loved the energy, the fast pace, the pressure to make every meal perfect. I, on the other hand, felt restless among the clang of pots and the hum of conversation. My passion lived elsewhere, in places quiet and green. Didn't share this with my family though, because I knew how they'd react. Every Sunday we had family dinner, which meant dining at our own restaurant, savoring dishes my father had spent hours preparing. Each dinner felt like another reminder of what was expected of me. My father would lean back in his chair, gaze around the restaurant, and talk about how we were lucky to have this foundation. He'd look at me, and there was always that question in his eyes: when would I finally take an interest? But instead of the pride he hoped to see, I felt nothing but dread. I didn't want the restaurant. I didn't want the late nights, the stress, or the responsibility of running a business I couldn't connect with. While my brother dreamed of expanding, of making it bigger and better, I dreamed of fields, plants, and the peace of a quiet greenhouse. It felt silly, though, to voice such thoughts in front of my family. They'd think I was foolish or, worse, ungrateful. As I sat through these family dinners, I felt more and more like an outsider, as if I'd been born into the wrong family. Over time, my reluctance to step into the family business became a source of unspoken tension. It wasn't as though my father confronted me directly. He never did. But every interaction seemed laced with his disappointment, no matter how much he tried to hide it. My brother Mike, however, was more vocal about his feelings. "Why wouldn't you want to keep this going?" he'd ask, as though I owed him an answer. "Dad built this for us. People would kill to have what we have." "I don't get it. What else could you possibly want?" He couldn't understand, and maybe he never would. To him, the restaurant was more than a place. It was a legacy, a symbol of our family's hard work and dedication. He took every shift seriously, constantly brainstorming new dishes and talking about ways to bring in more customers. Watching him, I sometimes wondered if there was something wrong with me for not feeling the same pull. I loved my family, and I respected what they had built, but the thought of spending my life here felt like a cage closing around me. My mother, ever the peacemaker, often tried to bridge the gap between us. "Everyone has their own path," she'd say, usually after Mike and I had argued. "Just because you don't want to run the restaurant doesn't mean you're letting anyone down. But maybe there's a way for you to contribute differently, in a way that feels right for you." It was a comforting thought, and I could tell she wanted me to feel accepted. But when I looked at my father's face, I knew he saw things differently. His silence spoke volumes, a weight that pressed down on me each time I entered the restaurant. He never said it, but I knew he believed I was wasting something precious. And with every passing year, I felt his gaze sharpen, like he was watching a clock run down, waiting for me to change. I started to distance myself, spending as little time at the restaurant as possible. Instead, I immersed myself in a world that felt more my own: plants, nature, and studying things I felt drawn to. I found comfort in things that grew without needing anyone's permission, things that flourished because they followed their own path. But in the back of my mind, the restaurant was always there, a tether I couldn't seem to cut. At family gatherings, I felt the weight of what I wasn't saying. I hadn't yet told them I didn't plan to stay, and maybe that was cruel, keeping them hoping for something I knew would never happen. But how could I break their hearts when I saw the pride in my father's eyes each time he talked about the future? Each time he said our restaurant, he wasn't just talking about bricks and mortar, he was talking about a dream he thought we all shared. The years passed in a blur of silent struggles, the pressure mounting as my father's expectations grew heavier. My birthday dinners had morphed into a ritual of unspoken demands, each slice of cake a reminder of the restaurant I was expected to inherit. My father watched me with hopeful eyes, longing for me to embrace the legacy he had built. One evening, Mike enthusiastically pitched a new menu, oblivious to my internal turmoil. "We should modernize," he said, excitement lighting up his face. My father nodded approvingly, pride radiating from him like the warm glow of the restaurant's lights. I forced a smile, my stomach churning. Why couldn't they see my dreams weren't tied to the restaurant? When Mike suggested a family meeting to discuss the future, a spark ignited within me. I set down my fork and felt an undeniable urge to break free. "I can't do this anymore." The words escaped my lips before I could rein them in. Silence enveloped the table, their forks hovering mid-air. "What do you mean?" My father's voice was soft, confused. His hurt was palpable. "This is our legacy." Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself. "I don't want to take over the restaurant. It's not my dream." The room felt charged with tension as I spoke. My father's face drained of color, while Mike gaped at me, stunned. "Your own passions," my father echoed, disappointment lacing his words. "What about our family's future?" With each heartbeat, I felt the weight of their expectations crushing me. I refused to back down. Choosing my path meant risking their love, yet I knew I had to try. The confrontation hung in the air like a dark cloud, leaving a heavy silence that followed me into the next day. I'd braced myself for the fallout, but nothing could prepare me for the chill in the house. My father's disappointment seeped into the walls, while Mike's expressions ranged from disbelief to frustration. I felt like an outsider in my own home. At breakfast, I sat in a tense silence, the clinking of cutlery amplifying the awkwardness. My father's face was a mask of disappointment, and even Mike's once supportive demeanor had shifted. "You're making a huge mistake," he said, his voice laced with a mixture of concern and anger. I merely nodded, unable to muster the words to defend my choice. Days turned into weeks, and my father's anger festered beneath a veneer of silence. I continued working at the restaurant, but my heart wasn't in it anymore. Each dish served felt like a betrayal of my true self. My passion for food, once vibrant, dulled into routine. Conversations with Mike felt strained, like walking on eggshells. One evening, as I cleaned the kitchen after closing, I felt tears prick my eyes. The weight of my decision bore down on me, and I questioned whether I had made the right choice. My phone buzzed, revealing a message from Mike. "Let's talk." A flicker of hope ignited. Maybe he understood my struggle and together we could find a way forward. But deep down, I knew the battle for my own identity had just begun, and the road ahead was fraught with challenges. I resolved to stand firm, ready to embrace the unknown, even if it meant walking alone. That message from Mike lingered in my mind, a thread of hope in the tangled web of uncertainty. When I arrived at the cafe we had chosen for our meeting, my heart raced. Would he truly understand? As I stepped inside, I noticed Mike at a corner table, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Thanks for coming," he said, offering a reassuring smile as I slid into the seat across from him. We exchanged small talk, but the air crackled with unspoken tension. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," he began, his voice steady yet earnest. "I want to support you, but you have to know it's tough for me to see you struggle." Took a deep breath, ready to lay bare my fears and frustrations. "It's not just about the restaurant. I feel trapped, like I'm living someone else's life. I want to pursue my passion for food, but my father doesn't see it." Mike nodded, his eyes reflecting understanding. "Why not show him what you can create?" he suggested, a spark igniting in his gaze. "Host a dinner, invite him, and share your culinary vision. Let him taste what you're capable of." The idea struck me with force. I could reclaim my identity and passions, and Mike could help me make it happen. Yes, I want to prove to him that I'm more than just his daughter. I'm an aspiring chef. As we brainstormed menus and guest lists, the weight on my shoulders began to lift. This was my chance to confront my fears head-on, and for the first time in weeks I felt a flicker of excitement for the future. In the days that followed, a whirlwind of activity consumed my life. The prospect of hosting a dinner for my father filled me with both anticipation and anxiety. I envisioned the moment he would step into my culinary world and taste my passion. Mike and I brainstormed relentlessly, settling on a menu that reflected not only my skills, but also my journey. We decided on a 3-course meal that would tell my story: a vibrant salad to symbolize fresh beginnings, a savory main dish inspired by my childhood, and a decadent dessert to represent my dreams. Each plate would be a testament to the chef I aspired to be. As the dinner date approached, I transformed my modest kitchen into a bustling culinary workshop. Mike helped me gather ingredients, his laughter mingling with the rhythmic chopping of vegetables and the sizzle of pans heating on the stove. We spent hours perfecting each recipe, the kitchen filled with the enticing aromas of garlic, herbs, and spices. I found myself lost in the rhythm of cooking, each stir and sprinkle a cathartic release. With every step, I gained confidence, fueled by the thought of finally sharing my passion with my father. But amidst the excitement, doubt crept in like a shadow. What if he didn't appreciate my efforts? What if he dismissed my dreams yet again? I confided in Mike, who was unwavering in his support. You're not just cooking for him, you're cooking for yourself. This is your moment, he reminded me. As the day of the dinner arrived, I woke early, my stomach a storm of nerves and excitement. I meticulously arranged the dining table, the flickering candles casting a warm glow. The final touches: a bouquet of fresh herbs as a centerpiece and handwritten place cards, added a personal touch. When my father arrived, I felt my heart race. Would he see me not just as his daughter, but as the chef I had become? As he stepped through the door, I took a deep breath, ready to serve him a plateful of my heart and dreams. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment of truth had arrived. As I stood in my kitchen, the aroma of the freshly prepared meal enveloped me, creating a comforting cocoon. Mike was busy setting the final touches, ensuring everything was perfect. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, but my heart raced with anxiety. I could hear my father's footsteps approaching, each step echoing in my mind like a countdown. When the door swung open, I caught a glimpse of my father. He looked the same, yet somehow different, as if years of life and experience had reshaped him. I forced a smile, the butterflies in my stomach flitting about as I greeted him. Welcome. I've made dinner for us. He stepped inside, his gaze sweeping the room. For a moment, I worried he would find my efforts inadequate, but instead, he offered a small nod, his eyes reflecting curiosity. Smells good, he said, glancing toward the kitchen. I led him to the dining room, where the table was adorned with the fruits of my labor: crisp greens glistening with dressing, a colorful main dish of grilled chicken and roasted vegetables, and a luscious chocolate mousse for dessert. I watched his expression closely, hoping to catch a flicker of pride or interest. We sat down, and I served the first course. As he took a bite, the silence stretched and my heart pounded. Could see the wheels turning in his mind. You made this? He finally asked, surprise mingling with admiration. Yes, I replied, feeling a swell of confidence. I've been working on my cooking skills, and I wanted to share this with you. The conversation flowed as easily as the wine I poured. We talked about everything: my culinary school aspirations, his memories of my childhood dinners, and even his own culinary adventures from years past. The more we spoke, the more I saw the walls between us begin to crumble. For the main course, I served the grilled chicken, and my father took a generous bite. This is fantastic, he exclaimed, a genuine smile breaking across his face. You've really outdone yourself. My heart soared at his praise. As we transitioned to dessert, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was exhilarating to watch him enjoy my food, to see him engage with my passion. "You know," he said, spooning up the mouse, "I didn't know you had this in you. You've really grown." The weight of his words lingered in the air, a testament to the journey we were both on. As I looked at him, I realized this dinner was more than just a meal. It was a bridge connecting our past and present. We were forging a new relationship, one rooted in understanding and support. And at that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope for our future. Dinner came to an end, and as I cleared the plates, I noticed my father watching me with a thoughtful expression. There was something in his gaze, a mixture of pride and a hint of regret. I took a deep breath, sensing this was the moment to address the elephant in the room, the years of silence and distance that had colored our relationship. "Dad," I said, placing the last plate in the sink, "I think we need to talk about everything that happened before, about why we lost touch." The air in the room shifted, thickening with unspoken words and raw emotions. He nodded slowly, his brow furrowing as he took in my words. "You're right. I've wanted to talk for a long time, but I didn't know how to start," he admitted. "After your mother and I separated, everything changed. I thought it was best to give you space, but I never wanted you to feel abandoned." I turned to face him, my heart pounding. "It felt like you chose to walk away. I was hurt, and I thought you didn't care. I didn't understand why you didn't fight harder to stay in my life." He sighed heavily, the weight of his past choices evident in his eyes. "I know I made mistakes. I thought it would be easier for you if I stepped back, but I see now that I was wrong. I should have been there, even from a distance. I wanted to shield you from the pain, but in doing so, I caused you more hurt." His vulnerability caught me off guard. "I was angry for so long, Dad. It felt like I was left to pick up the pieces alone." Tears pricked my eyes and I blinked them away, unwilling to show too much emotion just yet. "I thought I had to prove I could be successful without you." He reached across the table, resting his hand over mine. "You don't need to prove anything. I'm proud of you, of the person you've become. And I want to be a part of your life again, if you'll let me." There was a long pause, filled with the weight of our shared history. "I want that too," I finally said, my voice trembling. "But it's going to take time to rebuild what we lost." "Time and effort," he agreed. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Let's start fresh, one step at a time." We began discussing the future, how we could communicate more often and share our lives. It felt liberating to talk openly about our feelings, to let go of the bitterness that had long overshadowed our interactions. After a while, we moved to the living room, where I had prepared a small slideshow of my culinary journey. As the images flashed on the screen, my father leaned back, genuinely interested. "You've come so far," he remarked, smiling. "I can't wait to see where this path leads you." With each passing moment, I felt more connected to him than I had in years. It was as if we were unearthing the pieces of our relationship that had been buried under years of silence. I wanted to share my dreams, my ambitions, and my fears with him, and he seemed eager to listen. "Can I come to your next culinary competition?" he asked, eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Of course, I would love that," I replied, thrilled at the idea of him being there to support me. As the evening wore on, we shared stories, some light-hearted, others heavy with emotion. We laughed over old memories and cried over the ones that stung. With each word, it felt like we were healing the wounds of our past. I realized that although our relationship had been fractured, the foundation of love and care still remained. As the night drew to a close, we stood in the doorway, the cool night air brushing against our faces. "Thank you for dinner," my father said, his voice warm with sincerity. "It was the best meal I've had in a long time." "Thank you for coming," I replied, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I'm looking forward to what's next for us." He nodded, his expression a mixture of hope and determination. "So am I. Let's take this journey together, step by step." As he walked away, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. We were on a new path, one that promised growth, understanding, and the chance to mend what had been broken. Our dinner was not just a meal, it was the first chapter in a new story, one of healing together, where the scars of the past could fade into the backdrop of our shared future. In that moment, I knew that love had the power to bridge the gaps that time had created. And as I closed the door behind him, I felt ready to embrace this new beginning, confident that our relationship would only grow stronger from here on out.